beneficial to you right now?
How did you remember that question? That's good. I thought you were going to read the questions. Thank you very much for coming. I'm John McPhee, and I've been out at Nike for 20 years, and 3 of my children came here to Lincoln over the last 15 years. And before that, my wife came here 40 years ago. So we love Lincoln, and I've spent quite a bit of time here, and I was just reminded how incredibly fortunate we are here at Lincoln High School to have Peyton Chapman. I just saw Peyton in the main office there, and if every one of you is not familiar with Peyton Chapman and deeply grateful to have her as a principal, I hope that you'll have a chance to rethink that while you're at Lincoln. Alicia's question was, what was my high school like? And I will tell you, we didn't have a Peyton Chapman. So it was nowhere near as much fun as it is here. And I went to high school in a country far, far away from here called Australia. And in Australia, in Melbourne, where I went to school, the place I went was a boys only school. So there was a whole lot of things about that were also not perfect. The good thing was, it was a lot of sport and it was beautiful weather. They're probably the 2 highlights of my entire high school career, for better or worse.
Nice. And then after high school, you went off to college. What was your experience with college like, and what skills did you learn in college that are helping you the most right now?
So what did I learn in college, and what did I do in college? I stayed in college for 6 months after I left high school, and I decided that college was not for me. So 6 months after I went to college, so in Australia, a law degree is a undergraduate. It's the first thing you do. So I started in law school straight away and realized that was terrible and not for me. And so I left college and I went away. In Australia, most of Australia has no people in it. Most of Australia is called the Outback. And in the Outback, there are more than 25 large mining companies. And I went and worked in a mine when I was 18 after leaving high school, and I stayed there on and off for the next 4 years doing mining things 3,000 feet underground in the largest copper mine in the world. So in college, I didn't learn too much that time. Eventually, after working in the mines, I went back to college and did engineering stuff, and that was invaluable for me because I learned skills that I could then apply later on. Hard skills, hard measurable, quantifiable skills. And if I have one positive memory of college in terms of learning, it was that I developed a set of quantifiable, measurable skills. And I would say, as you think about college, don't think about it in terms of getting a degree, think about it in terms of, what do I care about? What do I want to do? And then at college, develop those skills. After being in the mines for 4 years, I knew that I wanted to do more stuff in the mines, which meant I needed math skills, as it happened. And so I spent college learning math skills so that then I could get a different job in the mines. That's the idea. Learn skills.
And then going to the mines, maybe it's more common in Australia, but it seems like a not typical career path. What caused you to decide to go there, and do you think that was a good decision in the long term?
Why did I go, and was it a good idea? I went because I wasn't clear that going to college was going to be valuable for me. So I really didn't know why I should go to college. And I think that's a hugely important call out for every one of you who's thinking about what your next steps are after high school. There is a lot in this country, and I've been here in Portland for 30 years, there is a lot of people, younger people here in Portland, who leave high school and go to college because going to college is the next thing that we do. And I would say to you, think very hard about that. Because often there is a lot to be said for doing something that speaks to who you are. Go and be who you are, and at some point it is good to go to college, because having a college degree means you'll earn more money and you will have more opportunities. The average person will earn more money and have more opportunities if you go to college. But going to college doesn't mean walking out of Lincoln and going to college. Go to college when you're ready to go to college, and go to college because you want to do something that speaks to who you are. Don't go to college to check the boxes or get a degree.
So would you say that when you were in college, after you knew what you wanted to do, specifically you were getting something out of college that possibly other people weren't getting out of college?
Yes.
Or approaching it differently?
Yes. I was hugely motivated because I went to college knowing what I wanted to get, which was a set of skills so I could go back in the mines and do other work. So I was excited by college when I went the second time because I knew what I wanted. And at 18, I had no clue. And I'm confident that that doesn't apply to any of you, but many 18-year-olds have no clue and they default into college. College in this country is not cheap. And you think about that. Think about all the ways you'll spend money in your life and say to yourself, not is this a good idea, because college is a good idea. The question is, when are you going to do it? And when you do it, what's the purpose of it? Why are you going to college? And the answer better be something other than to get a degree, possibly.
And then, at your time in college, you attended many different schools and spent a significant portion of your life learning that you knew you wanted to learn. For people who are unsure about how much higher education they want to get, what would you recommend?
Elise is asking how much college is good. So, I have 5 degrees, which is unnecessarily more than you need. But I have 4 masters and an undergrad engineering degree because I became curious about stuff. And I discovered that a great place to learn stuff is in college. And you can learn a huge amount of stuff quickly once you get your first degree. So the answer is, get a degree in something that you're interested in, and once you have one degree, there are plenty of other degrees that you can easily get that are attainable, but get degrees that speak to who you are, that speak to things you care about, because then they're easy. If you're doing stuff you love, you'll be good at it. That's just the truth of life.
Nice. Then, after you got your education and did some work, you got a job as the Director of North American Operations at Bunge North America. Can you tell us about how you got this job and what this job entailed?
So, in 1990, after doing a bunch of study, I started work as a Director of Logistics, which is an operations job. It's like, so today we call logistics, we call it the supply chain. And there's a lot of stuff being discussed in the papers and in the media and on social media today about the supply chain. The supply chain is the reason that you will not get all the things that you believe you deserve for Christmas. It won't be that people don't want to give you presents. It will be that they couldn't go and buy whatever you wanted because it wasn't available because the supply chain did not deliver. So the supply chain has all of a sudden become interesting and is getting a lot of high profile discussion. That job that I had was the Director of Supply Chain Stuff for a grain trading company. And I got it because I applied for 50 jobs. I wrote 50 letters in 1989 on a typewriter. You don't know what a typewriter is? It's like a computer, but it only makes one at a time. And so I typed the letters, and then I followed up with phone calls, because that's the way to get a job.
And then that's a pretty interesting job. What did you do during it, and what did it entail, directing global supply chain?
being a supply chain person. So in businesses, in all business, not in all business, in most businesses, there's three parts to every business. There's product, which at Nike, for example, is beautiful shirts and beautiful shoes. That's product. That's the heart of a lot of businesses. Then the second part of businesses is the thing called the brand. Now you all know our brand at Nike, the swoosh. That's what encourages you to buy our products. Because while our products are beautiful, no question, we want to encourage people to buy them, and the way they're encouraged to buy them is by the message that it sends to other people when you wear the swoosh. The swoosh says something about you, and that's called brand. And then the third part of it, so there's making cool products here, number one, making a great brand, which is what encourages people to buy your products, and then number three is operations, or the supply chain. The people who get the products made, move the products around the world, and then deliver them to the stores, and then get them out to the consumers. You are the consumers, the people who buy the products. Product, brand, supply chain. That's the essence of business today in 2021. And so this job was moving stuff around. I was not a product person, I was not a brand person, I was, how can we move this around effectively and efficiently in a way that gets the product to consumers on time? Because that's what consumers want. What do you want? If you order a pair of red shoes, you would like to see them on time. And you would like them to be for free shipping. Not free shoes, we don't do free shoes, but free shipping is what you want. That's what the supply chain does. If you become efficient enough, you can deliver it for free. And if you deliver it on time, then you have a rockin' good supply chain. That's what I was doing.
Yeah, so when you were working on the supply chain, this was your first time really dealing with supply chains on a global level, and you were a long way from the copper mine. What were some initial struggles that you had when dealing with your job?
So, Alicia has a whole bunch of very thoughtful questions. So the answer to this is so incredibly important. And the answer to this is the answer to how do you succeed in every job you do? And a mentor, a person who was advising me, told me this 25 years ago. And I never understood it at the time, but now I deeply, deeply believe it. The three things that we must all do every day in our work if we want to be successful. That's all it is. It's three things. Number one is be good at what you do. Work out what are the things that matter and be good at them. Be good at your job. So the person who started Nike 55 years ago, a famous man started Nike. Does anybody know who that was, by the way? Yes, good answer. I can't tell where it came from. Somewhere. Yes? Yes, Mr. Knight. So Mr. Knight started our company 55 years ago. And for the last 55 years, he's now 83 years old. Turned 83 on February 24th this year. For the last 55 years, people have been asking Mr. Knight, how do I succeed at Nike? And for 55 years, Mr. Knight's been telling people one thing: be good at your job, whatever your job is. Because if you're good at your job, then once you find a different job you'd like to go to, your manager will recommend you. They will say, John did good work. And that's how you get your next job. And then you can go and be good at that job. So, number one is be good at your job. Number two is be curious. And I would say to you, it's not possible to overstate how important this is. You want to be successful, be curious about the work you do. Be curious about the subject you're diving into. I am curious about shoes and shirts and moving stuff around the world. That's that 5 degrees thing. I have these degrees because I'm curious. I am hungry for knowledge. If you aren't hungry for knowledge today, Think about why you're not, and think about what it will take to help you. Find something you're hungry for, and go and pursue it. Because you'll discover, once you learn stuff, you'll want to learn more stuff. And once you're a learning person, you're curious, the world has no limits for you. So number one, be good at what you do. Number two, be curious about the world. Number three, and arguably the most important, be kind. Be kind. Treat people fairly. It sounds so simple, but it is completely life-changing. Every time you're interacting with somebody, say to yourself, how would I like to be treated? How would I like them to talk to me? You know the great truth of every conversation ever. Nobody cares about what you say. You know what people care about? How you make them feel. If you treat people kindly, the world will change. You will have limitless opportunities because everybody will want to hang out with you. Everybody will want to work with you. Everybody will want you on their team. And your world will be demonstrably, tangibly different forever. So 3 things. Be good at what you do, be curious about the world, and be kind.
That was just incredible. And speaking of transitions and getting new opportunities for yourself and continuing to pursue knowledge, so after you got this really interesting job at Bunch of America, you moved on to be the Vice President of Operations at Wilshire Financial Service Group. Can you tell us about this transition and then your new role?
So Alicia's saying, after doing operations stuff at this grain trading company called Bunge, I then moved to Wilshire Financial. Funny thing about Wilshire Financial, it was started by a kid who used to go to school here at Lincoln. And our offices were 100 yards up the road from Lincoln because he wanted to have a company near to Lincoln because he loved Lincoln. And he had started this finance company called Wilshire back in the late 1980s, and I went to work for him, and I was about 10 years older than him because he was a young man who was an extraordinary genius, and I went to work for him and worked for him for 5 years as his director of operations. It was called VP of operations at the time. But it was exactly the same job. Remember we said there's 3 things in business? What are the 3 things we talked about in business, please, Levi's? Oh no, that's in life. What are the 3 parts of every business?
Brand.
Yes? Brand is a good start. Your friend next to you?
Product.
Yes, good answer. And number 3 with the phone?
Supply chain.
Supply chain. Good. See, we have it down here at the front. Product, brand, supply chain. And the skills I had acquired, I was a supply chain person. I knew how to move stuff around. I knew how to get things delivered on time in a cheap way. That's what the supply chain does. And so the work at Bunge, grain trading, was exactly the same as the work at Wilshire, a finance company. Why? Because I had a set of skills. Supply chain skills. Not glamorous, cool skills. Glamorous is the people who make the red shoes. Glamorous is the marketing people I work with at Nike who elevate the brand, the swoosh. These people have glamorous jobs. There's gritty jobs, which means getting stuff done. That's the supply chain. And if you have, and it's called subject matter expertise, SME. If you're a SME, a subject matter expert, in some gritty field, you will have a job forever. People will want you to work with them because you get stuff done. The most famous book ever written about getting stuff done is called GTD. It's called Getting Things Done. And it's written by a guy called David Allen. And if you want a book about getting stuff done, read GTD. And when you develop getting things done, abilities and capabilities for yourself, you'll have a job for the rest of your life. Because everybody needs a GTD person.
Thanks. And obviously being a GTD person has helped you a ton. So after you worked at Wilshire Financial, you moved on to Ascendant Telecommunication. What was that transition like, and was the job still quite similar?
Guess what the answer to that question is, Alicia?
It's still three things. Okay, cool. Let's move on to Nike.
It was doing operation stuff. It's exactly the same job. It was just a different company. And the only reason I went to that company was because my wife, who used to go to Lincoln, had to move to Los Angeles for her job. And so I had to go and get a different job, and we went to Los Angeles to live, and I looked around for a job, and it happened to be a phone company. We were making switchboards for phones, a thing you did back before you had cell phones. And I didn't know the first thing about switchboard, just like I didn't know much about finance, just like I didn't know much about grain trading. What did I know about? GTD. And so the telecom company said, we know you don't understand what a switchboard is, but can you get stuff from here to there efficiently and on time? Here's a job. Hold that thought. Same job.
And you are clearly very good at this. For people that are interested in going into supply chain management, what do you think makes you better than other people at making sure that things get to the right place on
time? I would never say that I am better at doing it than somebody else. I am a good teammate because I care, because I want it, because I like going to work, and if you like doing something, you will probably try to do good things. You know, there's a hugely famous saying, and many of you have heard it, and I hope you know it's completely wrong. It's a lie. It's an untruth. The famous saying that people often talk about, they say, find work you love and never work a day in your life. That's a terrible thing to tell people because it's not true. You know what's true? Find work you love that you're good at, that someone will pay you for, and never work a day in your life. It's really important to see this. I am good at playing football. I am good at playing football. Can I make it? So that's something I'm good at. Can I make a living? Can I get a job playing football? No, because I'm not that good at it. So playing football is a terrible thing. I like surfing. I'm okay at surfing. Is that a good job? That's a terrible. No one's going to pay me to surf. I'm not that good. The way to think about what's possible for you is not find something you love. Finding something you love is not the answer. Find something you love that you're good at, that they will pay you for, and then you will never have to work a day in your life. That is a truth. But remember, it's more than just what you love. It's what you love that you're good at that they'll pay you for. So there's demand in the marketplace. That's the way you never work a day in your life.
Well, so speaking of finding jobs that you're good at that people want you for, you were able to, moving on to your Nike experience, get a very good job at Nike. And Nike is well known for being very selective with the people they hire. And I'm sure many people in the audience would love to work at Nike someday. So moving on to your time at Nike, how do you think you got this opportunity, and how do you think they realized that you did possess the skills to work hard and do what you love?
Every interview you will do for the rest of your life, every interview, ever, every question they ask you boils down to three things. Every interview question ever. All they want to know is three things. Number one, can you do the job? Are you good at what you do? First thing. The third thing, we'll do them out of order. The first thing they want to know is, can you do it? The third thing they want to know is, do I want to hang around with you? Because before COVID, we used to spend 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 40 hours a week working with people we worked. So one of the most important things in a job when you are hiring somebody is to, when you meet them, you've got to say to yourself, do I want to spend 40 hours a week with you? And that's a difficult thing to prepare for. Because if you aren't an easy person to hang out with, then that's going to make it harder. That's why there's a lot to be said for in the front of your mind saying to yourself, how do I make myself a better teammate or somebody people want to hang out with? Be kind. That's the only word you need to remember from this entire time, for our entire time together. If you are kind, people want to hang out with you. And that's the answer to question 3, is do I want to hang out with you? But you know what the real question is? The question that decides who gets a job? Because for most interviews you go to, they're going to decide, you went to Lincoln, you've got education, maybe you'll go to college at some point and you'll have a degree. And most people look at you and say, okay, this person has a degree, went to Lincoln, has a degree, probably they can do the job. That will very rarely be the challenge. And number 3, do I want to hang out with you? Well, they'll decide that in interacting with you. That's one of those things that often it's difficult for us to change, other than if we commit inside ourselves to being the best possible person we can be. Different discussion. Number 2 question is the one that decides who gets every job. You know what number 2 is? It's so important. You can put this on your list of important things from today. The people who get the jobs answer question number 2, which is, are you passionate about the work that we want you to do? Not do you want to come and work at Nike? Everybody, not everybody, a lot of people want to come and work at Nike. And so there's no good going to a Nike interview and saying, oh, I love Nike. I love Nike shoes. I can tell you about Prefontaine. I read Mr. Knight's book called Shoe Dog. Everybody's done that. We know you love Nike. We are pleased that you love Nike. But that doesn't make you different. You've got to say to yourself, do I want to do this work? Whatever the job is, pick a job. Pick a job, Alicia. Product design. Okay, that's a great answer. So product design is lots of people want to do that at Nike. How do I convince somebody I want to do product design? Well, the glib answer would be, I tell them. I say, I love product design. But you know what that's worth? Almost nothing. Saying I love product design does not convince anybody you love product design. How do you convince somebody you love this work? How do you answer question number 2? Are you passionate about this work? How do you convince somebody? Who do you love in the world? I don't know who I can ask that of. It's an easier question to ask. Let's pretend it's me. So, who do I love most in the world? My wife. I deeply love my wife. Truly. 30 years later, 40 years after she left Lincoln, I love my wife. You know what I know about my wife? Almost everything. I know her favorite ice cream. I know what she likes to do in the morning. I know how she spends her day. I know what book she reads. I know what music. This is one of the ways you think about love. Love, if I love something or somebody, I know a lot about them. So, if you want to win people over with question 1 was, Are you good at it? Probably you'll be good. Number 3 is, do I like you and want to hang out with you? We can't control that. Question 2 is, am I passionate about this work? How do you convince someone you're passionate? How do you convince somebody you love this work? You know the answer. You know a lot about it. Whatever job you want, you can have whatever job you want. You can truly have whatever job you want. Truly. As long as you know a crazy amount about that job. And when I went to Nike 19 and a half years ago looking for a job, I had spent 6 months, truly, 6 months, learning about Nike and learning about the Nike supply chain. Why? Because I wanted a job at Nike in the supply chain. And the only way I was going to convince them that they should hire me, because my resume didn't look like a Nike resume. Nike people have done retail stuff, they've been to the University of Oregon, they know a lot about sport, they probably grew up in America. All this stuff that Nike people have, I didn't have any of it. But what did I have? A huge amount of knowledge about how the Nike supply chain worked. And eventually, I found somebody who interviewed me who said after the interview, I have not met somebody who knows as much about the Nike supply chain as you do, who's outside Nike. Why did I? And he concluded, oh, by the way, he said, you must love this stuff that you know so much about it. And so they gave me a job 19 years ago, only because I knew a lot about the job. I knew a lot, and that was 19 years ago. And I will tell you, the Google, it was not so accessible 19 years ago. And it did not have, we did not have the ability to learn stuff like we do today. Today, you can learn anything if you want to, if you care. And if you want a job at Nike and you care, find a job that you think you are passionate about and learn a lot of stuff about that job. And then you'll get the job, as long as you're a reasonable person and you have some facsimile of kindness on your outside.
So one thing that you've been talking a lot about is the importance of like really showing that you're passionate about and learning a lot about a subject that you are passionate about. Do you have any advice for people who aren't quite sure what they're specifically passionate about?
Yes. Oh, yes. So you're saying, so now Alicia's saying, well, this is all well and good if you know what you're all excited about, and I fell into the supply chain stuff 100 years ago, and it turns out it fit well with me. Pick something. This is the absolute, categorical, irrefutable, correct answer. My children, one's 20, he's at college. The one's 25, she finished at college. The other one's 28, and he finished at college. They all went here at Lincoln. They all had a fabulous time. They all learned an extraordinary amount. They had great experiences. They were living the dream on the Peyton Chapman juggernaut. All true. And then they went to college and they had no clue what they wanted to do. Truly, the two big ones, no clue. And we had this discussion, and the answer was, pick something. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, what do I enjoy doing? Remember, what are the 3 things I've got to be? Something I love doing, that I'm good at, that someone will pay me for. And we said to the 2 big kids, as their time came, what do you like doing? My daughter loves talking to people. Truly loves talking to people. A lot. And loves helping people. Okay? That's interesting. That's what you love. Are you good at it? Yep. She's a relatively kind, thoughtful person. Who will pay you to talk to people and be kind? Oh, I know. Human resources. She's a recruiter. Not a difficult job to get, but she's recruiting for Amazon. Not Amazon Web Services. The cool stuff, the cloud, where all the happy people are. She's at Amazon Web Services, but she has a job she's good at, she loves doing, and Amazon pays for enough money to feed her dog. Perfect. Older kid, no idea what he wanted to do. He ended up doing some sales stuff. He liked talking to people. That wasn't him. Then he went off and worked doing some stuff with the Air Force because he liked fitness. He played a bunch of football, basketball, baseball here. He liked sports stuff. He went off and got a job helping build fitness machines. And then he quickly went, over a quick 12 months, in the evenings, went round here to Viking Central, to Portland State University, and picked up a master's degree. Not very complicated, but how was it easy for him to get a master's degree? It was in health stuff. What does he love doing? He spent an extraordinary amount of time in the gym at the other end of the corridor here because he loved sport. So he loved learning about sport. So all of a sudden now he has a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. And the master didn't take much effort, I will tell you, because it was stuff that he loved. So eventually he stopped doing that, and now he's off doing a different thing, some work that he really enjoys doing, and he's become really good at it, and now people are paying him more money than he deserves because of the current unusual economic situation. What am I good at? What do I love doing? Who the heck will pay me for this? That's all there is to it. And if you don't know what it is, just answer the first question. What do I love doing?
Oh, it's really interesting and definitely powerful. So then you found what you love doing and you started doing it at Nike. Nike is well known to have a sort of unique work environment. Did you notice this when you first started there, and what do you think about it?
What sort of environment?
A unique sort of.
Unique. Yeah, so Nike, and I don't want to proselytize or make Nike out to be anything more than it is. It is the greatest place I've ever worked ever. Understatement. It is truly a fabulous company for a whole bunch of reasons. And so, is it unique? It is unique. And it's unique because people in general are pretty reasonable human beings. And we are fortunate, unbelievably fortunate, Nike, that there is a pervading ethos, a culture that says, if you treat people badly, we will ask you to leave the company. And in a lot of companies, if you treat other people badly, some of those people become managers and directors and vice presidents by being ruthless and brutal and thoughtless and unkind. And I'm just talking about the investment banking community there, that I shout out to all our investment banking community friends in the back of the room here, that's a brutal industry. Nike, it's be kind. If you don't treat people kindly, then you will find yourself in trouble. And I love the fact that for 20 years, people treat each other really thoughtfully. And that's only because when Mr. Knight started the company 50 years ago, he was enamored of Japanese business. Because Japanese business people helped Mr. Knight start Nike back in the day. And he loved the Japanese business ethos, which is today. Treat people thoughtfully. Less confrontation is better. And that's the way that Nike operates today.
So through this realm of operation, you mentioned that handling basically all global supply chain is kind of similar throughout different companies. Even though you are now at a huge billion-dollar company at Nike, which does have this unique work environment, would you say this was still true for your time running Nike supply chain?
What's still true, sorry?
Just that working in the supply chain industry, they're all very similar, and there's wasn't different between your jobs. And then right now you are working at Nike Supply Chain University and helping run that. Can you tell us more about what you're doing through that?
Just briefly, so 7 years ago, I was at Nike for 12 years, and 7 years ago, I was curious, the thing we talked about earlier, about how Nike worked, and I wanted to explain it to more people, and I created a summary of how Nike works, and that summary became well known and well regarded, And so 6 years ago, my boss at the time, the world head of the supply chain, said that I should start doing this more often. And so that became my job. And that's one of the cool things about Nike. So for the last 6 years and 5 months, the only thing I do for a job is not supply chain stuff anymore. All I do is stand up and talk for 4 hours a day on Zoom or 8 hours a day when I do this live. And I have a way that we explain how Nike works, what are the levers that matter, why we're successful, what are the things we're doing, and I present that class in 24 different countries, and so far I've done it 722 times as of 2 hours ago here in Portland, Oregon, for almost 18,000 teammates that work at Nike. And it's become this well-known thing that explains in groups of 30 to 40 teammates at a time how business works globally. What are the things you need to do if you want to understand business and if you as a person want to succeed in business? That's all I do.
It sounds really amazing that you're teaching Nike people about Nike.
Right.
Could you give us a short example of something that you might go over in this presentation?
So we've covered a few of them today. My friend here, again, what are the 3 parts of our business? Product, good answer. See, my work is done. So product, brand, supply chain, that's an integral part of who we are at Nike. We had a CEO whose wife, our CEO from 2006 to 2020, was an iconic leader whose name is Mark Parker. And Mark's wife, Kathy, was the world record holder in the 1 mile run. And she used to coach here at Lincoln for about the last 20 years. And Mark Parker changed us. He made us a company in his own image. Mark Parker, who's now chairman of the board at Nike, deeply cares about one subject, and that subject's called sustainability. We are famous the world over, not just in this country, not just in our industry, for one thing. We're famous for our relentless focus on sustainability, and we talk a lot about it in this class. And when you're thinking, and I hope that every one of you thinks about sustainability, and I know you've heard the word sustainability, but you're thinking to yourself, what does he mean by sustainability? You know what sustainability is? It's the 2 famous Mark Parker questions, which are, number 1, is this good for the planet? Number 2, is this good for the people who live on the planet? That's a great way for the rest of your life to think about sustainability. Because I know that every one of you, of the 30 of you in the room, I bet almost every one of you cares about and thinks about sustainability. But sustainability is so hard to get your arms around. That's all you need to know. Is it good for the people? Is it good for the planet? And when you think about sustainability, in those terms, you will have a perspective on sustainability that will benefit you for the rest of your life.
So you've been working at Nike for about a long time now, and you've been in the supply chain industry for a long time. Are there still new challenges that you encounter, and can you outline them and your goals for the future?
The challenges are the world's becoming a faster place. So there's 3 big challenges for the supply chain people. And I know nobody here wants to dive deep on the supply chain at 4:45 on a Wednesday night. The supply chain has to become faster, and it will. And the reason it's becoming faster is because of you. Because you all care about digital product. You want to buy things online, and you want it delivered in 2 days for free. And that's the greatest challenge the supply chain faces today. Buy online, get it delivered quickly for free. That's our summary. And we had an entire reorganization at Nike about 1 year and 2 months ago, September last year. And the essence of our entire reorg was that. That's the summary. Digital, on time, free shipping. Oh, and number 4, easy returns. That was the entire summary of that reorg. And that's what's changed, because that was not true 5 years ago or 10 years ago, but that's what makes today busy and exciting.
That was really interesting. So firstly, can we all give a big round of applause to our speakers? And John covered a lot of really interesting topics, so I'm guessing the audience has some questions. So for the rest of the time, we'll be opening this up to audience questions. So if anybody has a question, they can just shout it out, or I can bring the microphone over. Okay, we'll start with you in the front.
You said the 4 steps are digital, easy, or
So digital, the future of business is you personally. You want to buy stuff online, digital. You want it delivered on time. You want it for free free shipping, and you want it to be able to return it easily. They're the 4 big opportunities in the supply chain today. And we did this whole reorg that changed the face of Nike 14 months ago, predicated on that simple sentence there.
Thank you.
Have you ever lost your passion for your job?
No. No, I love working at Nike. I love the supply chain. And remember, so this and I would say this is worth thinking about, that I'm a little bit fortunate in that when I'm 18, I went and worked in a copper mine in the middle of Australia. And I was there for 3.5 years, and then I struggled through college for the next 3.5 years, and then I went back to the copper mines for 5 years. So by the time I was 30, I'd spent almost 9 of those years working 3,000 feet underground in a copper mine. So every day of my life since then is a great day. Because you know what I did for lunch today? I went and sat outside. Every day I worked underground, I had lunch 3,000 feet underground. Every day when I finished work, I went and had a really strong shower because I was covered in filth. Today, no shower. Shower this morning, but no shower since then today. So every day I am truly, truly grateful that I am not in the outback, that I managed to come to the promised land, that I came to America 34 years ago, and I never left, because this is truly paradise. This is the greatest country on earth, and I hope that anybody who is not clear on that you have a chance to travel the world, because as soon as you travel the world, you will see clearly that for the average person, this country is as good as it gets.
I have a question about the supply chain. You clearly know it very well. The government recently announced that they're working to have the Long Beach and Los Angeles ports open 24/7. Do you think that is a good idea, and do you think that will help with the global supply chain?
It is a good idea on a temporary basis to relieve the clogged up Long Beach port today. It's not a good idea long term, because I am not, back to the mining discussion, I am not a big fan of people working from midnight to 8 a.m. I think 24-hour work is good for business in a very, very thoughtless way. It's bad for people. There's nothing good. I did shift work for almost 9 years. Shift work is brutal. It doesn't enable you to be the best you can be. So I have tried to never advocate, and I'm not advocating today, for anything that involves people working round the clock. And I know there's exceptions to that, like the police, thank goodness, and nurses and doctors. We need people to work, but maybe that doesn't apply to moving trucks and boxes through the port in LA.
Do you think that once they unclog the supply chain in Long Beach and LA, that there won't be a need to work 24 hours a day? Or do you think once you start it, you won't be able to go away from that?
No, the end. So there won't be a need because we have 5 ports down the west coast of America. So we have Seattle, Portland, Oakland, LA, maybe 4. There's a lot of other choices. And I would say that if we truly care about people, and we are in 2021 being more cognizant of the fact that people's lives matter more than our businesses, that it would behoove us as a country to say, let's move more stuff through Oakland in San Francisco, or Portland, Oregon, or Seattle. And yes, there may be a slightly greater cost because the ships have to go a little bit further north than Long Beach, but that cost will be minuscule compared to the benefits for people not having to work 24/7 at Long Beach.
Makes sense. Thank you.
You seem to feel like you have to find something that you were very passionate about early on. How do you find something that you're extremely passionate about when you're young and
Yes,
yeah.
right, young and look. So the answer is 2 things. Number 1, ask yourself, what am I good at? Not a job. What thing do I do? So for my daughter, came out of Lincoln, didn't really feel as though she was good at anything, but we had a bunch of these discussions, and we agreed, good at talking to people, good at empathizing, good at looking people in the eye, asking thoughtful questions, and treating people kindly. So number 1, what am I good at? And then number 2, I would say to you, if you are thinking about your career seriously, then pick something that you're good at and go and learn a lot about it. Remember we said there's 3 things. What am I good at? What do I know? What am I passionate about? And what do they pay me for? You can't be passionate about something if you don't know a lot about it. So people say to me, how do you get passionate about something? I'm saying the first thing to do is to learn a lot about it. It's back to my wife. I love my wife and I am passionate about it, but I knew a lot about my wife before I loved her as much as I do today. And knowing a lot about her and all the extraordinary gifts she has, that has made me love her more. And that's a great way to think about your first job. If you aren't sure, think about what I can do, what people say to me, wow, you rock at that, and then find something that looks like a job that's like that, learn a lot about it, and then go and give it your best shot. Remember, between 18 and 30, don't be carried away. If you don't find the thing you love immediately, it'll be okay. It'll sort of, from 18 to 30, I did a lot of ridiculous things, but it all worked out in the end. But at 18, you cannot be looking and saying, how am I doing compared to Bill or Mary or whomever? You can't be comparing yourself to other people. Look, you've got a way to think about the next 30 years of your life. It's like a marathon. I've run a bunch of marathons. And you know what happens in a marathon? Which starts, so imagine you come out of college, you're 22 years old, and everyone looks around and says, oh look, she's making $1 million. He's got a crazy good life. She's married with 3 kids and 4 dogs, or whatever. And everyone's comparing themselves. You can't do that because a marathon is 26 miles. Think about your first 26 years from 22 till you're 48 as a marathon. It doesn't matter if you're competing with others. Who's ahead at mile 2, 5, 10, or 15? It's a race. It's a journey. Find something you love, learn a bit about it, get someone to pay you for it, and then eventually you'll find, if you're a good person, if you're good at what you do, if you are kind, as we agreed, and you are deeply curious about the world, you'll find great work, and you'll be successful, and you'll be invited back to Lincoln so you can stand up and tell stories on the Stumptown Speakers 30 years from now, or something. Not very well. Stand up and shout. Live on the edge. Pull your mask down for 12 seconds.
I'm a bit curious about the three questions you said that the employers would ask you. Basically, question one, if you're good at the job, question two, if you're passionate about, question three, if you're
Do I want to hang out with you?
yeah, either one hang out with you. Isn't question two just a big plus? I mean, won't the employer just want a worker who's fast? Won't they just want to make it a very good investment in you? I mean, will they really care if you're passionate?
You won't be good at what you do if you're not passionate about it. Because being passionate about something will make you better. If there's two competing candidates who are both equally good, I want to hire the person who's excited to do this job because I have a belief that this person will perhaps do a better job because they deeply care about it, not just they're good at it. But one of the things like passion is love, and if you're passionate about something, you'll be thinking, maybe, how could I do this better? Or how could I improve this work? Or how could I use it to help someone upstream or downstream of me? Passion, providing everyone's equally good, passion is a huge defining characteristic in the people who succeed in business.
And you?
You really stress the importance of being kind.
Sorry, there's an air conditioner next to my right foot. I'm nowhere near as deaf as I appear. There's a huge noise here.
Check.
Oh, that's good. Oh,
Okay. You really stress the importance of being kind and being a person that people enjoy working with. I think everyone's bound within their careers to encounter people who they don't really get along with or who they have difficulties with. So what advice would you give on dealing with adversity in the workplace in a professional manner while still maintaining a kind and genuine character?
I think that's a fair question because it sounds as though I am being Pollyanna, that I am imagining there's this fantasy world where everybody treats each other nicely and there's no bad people. And that's not the world. So there's two parts to this. So I think the question you're asking is, what do I do if I'm working with somebody who's not behaving thoughtfully? In general, in a smaller company, that's much more difficult. In a big company, the answer is, if somebody's behaving badly, just go and work with somebody else. Now, if this person is your boss, and that's a very difficult question to answer. If your boss is not treating you badly, and is not a kind, thoughtful, decent person, then to me, and I don't want to sound glib, but there is a huge amount of, I would give a lot of thought to finding a different job. Because if people treat you badly and they are in a position of power, then you have choices. You can either fight them, which is very difficult to do in the workplace, or you can find a different opportunity. And I know that sounds like a very Teflon answer, and if we all did that, then all the bad people will continue to thrive. But I believe the bad people won't thrive, because if you're working for a good company and people continually leave working for one manager, then the more senior person will say, what's up with this manager that nobody wants to work for this manager? So I think that's one of the ways that you stand up and be counted, rather than stand there and take it, which would be a difficult thing for me to advocate. At the same time, you want to stand up and be counted, and one of the ways to stand up and be counted is to try to move away, which may not be as easy as I'm glibly making it out to be. I absolutely agree.
Well, that is all the time we have. First of all, can we get another round of applause for amazing? All of you learned a lot. Thank you so much for showing up today. If you want to be counted for attendance and you haven't, please sign your name on the sign up outside the doors. Thank you so much for coming. Have a great evening.